Hello. My name is Evgeny Neyolov. I'm security analyst and I work for one Russian company. And today I'd like to tell you something about bitcoins. Can we close the doors? Okay. So, a few words about me. I am co-organizer of Russian DevCon group. It's like a mini conference, regular meetings, and we also organize Zero Nights conference, which is our hardcore hacker conference, where we invite world-leading speakers and share our experience. And my key interests include some anonymity and privacy schemes. I'm also interested in e-commerce, anti-fraud systems, and forensics and anti-forensics. And with such interests, I couldn't miss some hot news from 2013. If you remember something about it, I can remind you that the year started with the incident response company Mandiant report, and they reported about APT1 group, which is accused in spying, and with the help of this document, the United States government accused Chinese for spying. You know, in the field of intelligence agencies, in the field of spies, special agents, this rule that you can do absolutely everything, you can use any methods until you're caged. And when you're caged, you're almost dead. And NSA was caged, so sometimes ago, Snowden disclosed a lot of information about the NSA techniques. It was expected, but nobody expected that it's too advanced. And before these two events, it was another one with the Cyprus. It was one of the most well-known offshore zones, which was tax haven for many people, for politicians to hide their income to some persons who are involved in money laundering, etc. And it was a big scandal. Then another event was Silk Road shop, which was involved in shipping drugs and weapons. It was taken down by FBI. So why I'm talking about it? I'm talking about it because of butterfly effect. And everything that happens nowadays changes the world directly or indirectly, and all these events lead to the growth of Bitcoin. So we cannot miss this fact. So you can see that on these figures, on these graphs, that for a long time nothing happened. I mean, this hot news, and during the half a year, it had a very huge growth. And now it's advertised a lot, and a few weeks ago Bitcoin Embassy opened doors in the Warsaw in Poland, and they're going to help new users to understand how to use Bitcoins, how it's working. And with this hot trend, many companies offer their services for people, for Bitcoins, and sometimes they use it. They do it not only to offer services for Bitcoins. They do it also for advertising thing. That means that it could be, for example, one of the hosting services, which is nothing special, one of the thousands. They'll start to accept bitcoins, and they tell, hey, look at me, we accept bitcoins, come to us. And it's not common situation now, and there are a lot of services all over the world which are available with bitcoins, but you cannot do it, you cannot use it in your daily life. You cannot use it every day. You just, nowadays it's a thing for geeks. And now you can order some food, you can buy goods, you can pay for web services, you even can purchase electric car Tesla. You even pay to girls and escort agencies in the United Kingdom and in Netherlands, and you even can purchase a passport and citizenship in the Caribbean island nation of Saint Kitts and Nevis. And it's quite popular right now, and a lot of people have learned about bitcoins after this massive media attention. But is this idea of cryptocurrency is really fresh? So actually not. What we have now is is a result of research more than 30 years of crypto algorithms, of digital currencies, of virtual currencies. And actually, that's a very old concept. And the reason why we pay attention to it only right now is that society wasn't ready for that some years ago. It even wasn't ready for that 5 years ago. So now we have what we have, and why it's important now? Because of people are tired of the government control. They resent the fact of surveillance and social networks and monitoring, profiling, data mining, so profiling for advertisement reasons. So they cannot hide, and it's quite expected behavior for them right now. And of course, because of some financial systems are not ideal, and people always need alternatives. Even they will not use it, they need alternatives. And cryptocurrencies allow us to do it. So mass media paid a lot of attention to this new trend, and they are writing about that it's not only for geeks, but ordinary people can use it also. And because of private usage, because of no fees, because it's secure, because it uses crypto algorithms, so use it, just use it, and we will not take fees, we will not give you chargebacks, there's no inflation, etc. Okay, 1 second. So, and among other advantages, there are secure protocol with strong technology and strong cryptography, private and not controlled and monitored transactions. But it's not completely true, and we'll look at basics, how it's working. So Bitcoin is based on peer-to-peer network, and all hosts within the network are equal, and they have the same rules and the same functions. And support for this protocol is implemented within Bitcoin daemon, which is the key element of the network, and every user needs to install it. And there are different graphical user interfaces for this Bitcoin daemon, and some of them are user-friendly enough, and users just use it as a regular e-payment system. But actually it's not a payment system, it's a digital cash because of the main idea of Bitcoin. It's decentralized, and there is no any center which control it, which issue the new coins. And what are the basic entities there? So we have public keys, which are used to generate new addresses, and Bitcoin address mathematically corresponds to a public key and consists of 27 to 34 alphanumeric characters. And then users use these addresses to send a transaction. And these addresses are stored in the wallet. Wallet is a file or entity where all the addresses are collected, and it shows it shows total balance for all addresses. Another entity is the coin. Coin is a sequence of digitally signed transactions, and coins can appear only with the new blocks. That means that there's no any opportunity to appear for coin except when generating a new block. The algorithm of amount of new coins is hard-coded in the protocol, and up to 2031 or around, all the coins will be issued. And since that moment, the only reason for miners to support the network will be fees for transactions. So private keys are used to sign the transactions, and every transaction is broadcasted to the network. So all the miners, people who support the network, they confirm this transaction. And as it's a P2P network, all the miners exchange information, and all this information available for everyone within this network. And when the block is finished, another is created, and there is a chain of blocks. So if there is a branch, the branch will be deleted, and the longest chain of blocks will be used. So what are the key concerns about it? So at this moment, all the currencies are not anonymously in the common world. So what's important that people often, there is a common misconception about privacy and anonymity, and they're used for different reasons. Privacy, the same mistake people do when they choose which kind of service to use for the anonymity in the network. For example, VPN via Tor, because VPN is for privacy, not for anonymity, and Tor for anonymity. And they have different goals. And for privacy, people don't want anyone know what they're doing, and they don't care about anything else. And for anonymity, they don't care about who knows about it, because nobody knows who they are. And wide promotion of the bitcoins, the people see that it's anonymous, and let's use it. Government cannot control us, and that's why there is a common misconception. And after all Snowden disclosures, people just want to have a solution which allows them to hide some traces, to not be a product, to not be analyzed, to not be determined. And another concern is that people need a security for their investments, and they need strong algorithms. And while there is no any control center, it's not possible to charge back the transactions. If someone have stealed wallet file, or if someone got public keys, they don't have any chance to return their money. And if the wallet is encrypted, it also could be a victim of the malware. So there are a lot of examples of malware, a lot of spam campaigns with the malware who steals bitcoins, who installs mining software. Also, a few days ago, I got one sample of web malware which was injected into a website, and it was a Java plate which allows to mine bitcoins while the user keep the tab open. So if you're interested, I can share the sample after the presentation. And so there are many cases of compromise, some different services. In case of not using your own wallet, in case of using web services, they could also be hacked. And another concern is the hidden data mining. So it could be used as companies data mine some information about the user browsing. The same we can do. The same they can do with bitcoins. And hackers can use computation power to mine on behalf of these users. So let's look at some information about how it's happening with the data mining. So all the transactions, as we can see on the slide, are opened, and the only reason to confirm that you have rights to spend this money is to show your private key. And all the transactions are like a letter where you can see that you can send transaction into network, and hey, you all can see this transaction, but the only reason who can spend this money is the person with the public key, which corresponds to the opened key. And all these transactions are in blocks, and blocks are also available. A blockchain is a transaction database which is shared by all nodes participating in the system. And a full copy of blockchain is available publicly, and it contains every transaction which were executed ever. And with this information, one can find out how much value belongs to a particular address at any point of the history. And the blockchain is broadcasted to all nodes on the network with the fluid protocol. And since that, there are many concerns about the privacy. And on this slide, you can see example of the transaction of the block. And this block consists of different transactions. All the information about the block is available directly, so you can see that header with the technical information about the hash, about the previous block, the next block, the time when it was created and changed, amount of transactions, amount of bitcoins within this block. So all the transactions are available. And the good point is that all transactions are visible there, but there's no obvious relation to their personal ID. And we can argue a lot about it, but without doubt, it's possible to mine this information, and I'm sure that some special agencies already do it. And we are living in the era of data mining, where power and algorithms are good enough to do the things. So it's not impossible, but could be difficult for an ordinary person. And it's very easy to companies and to governments. And if we compare persons and governments, individual researchers and agencies, governments and agencies have almost unlimited resources. So in what points we should look at? So first of all, it's client software. And default client based, all the clients based on P2P applications, and default client, as well as many others, don't use any encryption while sending the transactions. And all the information is available directly on the network. And it's possible for an adversary to collect information about the transactions and to see the source of the transactions, to see an IP addresses, where it was initially from. And it's just necessary to have some power to run multiple nodes. And people may prefer use online services like Bitcoin clients. And it could be internet wallets, it could be where you just deposit money, transfer money from another Bitcoin account. It could be exchangers where you deposit real money and convert it to the Bitcoins. It could be mixers where you cash in one money and cash out another money. For example, you have dirty money and want to get clean. And all web services track users. And so you should trust them first of all. And anyway, if they say that we don't keep logs, we don't track users, they are still hosted on the provider data centers, and they have to comply with the law. So it's a problem. And it's also possible for the government to have their own exchangers or mixers, or control it or organize it at all. And as, for example, FBI does with the cybercrime forums, underground forums, and then they can review all the transactions, all the details, contact addresses, etc. And in many countries, bitcoins are either forbidden or regulated. And if they are prohibited and services are under risk, services are under risk because of the law. And if they are regulated, they should comply with the requirements. For example, exchangers which allow to deposit money and deposit real bitcoins and cash out real money, for example, dollars, should have the users identified because of the anti-money laundering regulations. So that's why many fraud schemes, many cyber criminal schemes are catched not on the level of technical things where you track IP addresses and other details, but on the level where online money becomes offline money, where virtual currency converts to real currency. And there are some ways to complicate the investigation, but it requires necessary skills. And the basic skill is to use some techniques and protocols to hide the real IP addresses. So even they get information about you, profile you, they don't know who are you really. Another thing is that to be anonymous, you have to get money anonymously. So the initial transaction should be anonymous. And because, as I've told you, that many incidents were investigated not on the technical level, but on the financial level, it's very important to have initial transactions anonymous. And it's much simpler for law enforcement to gather information than tech details. And another problem that is difficult to get money on your wallet anonymously. The most obvious case would be that you buy bitcoins offline, so you don't have any technical traces to you. There is a lot of services such as localbitcoins.com and many others where you just specify a city where you want to buy it, and you meet offline, pay cash, and got Bitcoin. So this person don't know who are you. This person don't know what would you do with this money. So it's quite anonymous. What's important is that in any other cases, Bitcoins will not be anonymous because, for example, even if you got these coins from your friend, he can get it from his friend, and initially that guy got it from the exchanger, paid with a credit card. So it's quite easy to analyze transaction flows. So it's an additional point of concern. And what's necessary to say that it's highly recommended to use a separate address for every transaction. When you want to get money from someone, you should have to create a separate pair of keys, public plus private key. And if someone sends you money, they don't know that you already have any addresses. But what's important is that keep in mind that when you want to cash out, you can fail because, for example, if you have addresses for many reasons, for example, one address is you have to get Bitcoins from people, one group of addresses you have for web services. When you want to cash out it, you should use the same service, the same exchanger, or the same wallet to collect all this money in one place and make from this real money, for example, dollars or euros. And yet another point of concern is a change. For example, when you got a transaction, for example, for 5 Bitcoins, and you want to use these Bitcoins and send 3 Bitcoins to another person, you'll have 2 Bitcoins, and you need to decide where to send it. You send it to your own address, or you send it to a hidden address. So the change is also important, and it's necessary to keep in secret these addresses because even a lot of companies and a lot of users share their addresses online, because, for example, in Twitter or on their sites for donate. And if you have one public address and one private address, and you want to cash out it, again, you'll use the same entity, the same exchanger, the same service for cashing it out. So for hide these facts, there are some laundry services which allow to send money to the service. This service is acting like a buffer for transactions. He accepts Bitcoin payments and returns the same amount of Bitcoins, but from other addresses. And it's quite useful, but it's useful for small transactions. And it works only when there are a lot of transactions in and out. So it might be better to say that Mixer disguises the transaction chain leading to your account by passing through one or more intermediates. And a good mixing service would be not only do not hold logs of transactions, a log of IP addresses, but it also should use different amounts of money in transactions. And it should have some delays between the transactions. So, for example, one of the famous cases when some exchangers, Bitcoins from exchangers were stolen, or Bitcoins from Silk Road were stolen, is that thousands of Bitcoins were into mixing service, to laundry service, and then this enormous amount of bitcoins were cashing out. So it was obviously that the same person who got these coins from the laundry deposited it. So it was quite clear, and in this point of view, this service was almost useless. And when you deposit dirty coins, it gives you clean coins, because nobody knows which transactions were source of your money finally, because there is a buffer. For example, there are 100 transactions who deposit money, there is a buffer, and you want to get 100 bitcoins, and you'll get it only from 50 source addresses, and nobody knows the details except the mixer service, the laundry service. So in this case, you should trust this service. There are 2 points which you should consider when using these services, even 3. First of all, it could be controlled by the government. The second point is that it could be a fraud service. It could collect money, and one day it will disappear with all the monies. And another point, third point, is that in many countries it could be prohibited to use to have any attention to bitcoins, because, for example, in Russia, bitcoins is not recommended, which means prohibited for personal use, because you are involved, you literally involved in money laundering of other persons. And in this case, mixing service is related to money laundering. So the same which you can do with mixer, you can do with the exchanger, and sometimes exchanger are the best choice because mixers appear and disappear, and exchanger is a point of trust, because exchangers don't make money from deposits. It takes money from fees. So if they disappear, they just get some amount of coins, and after that they will get nothing. And if they get profit from fees, they will do profit 1 year, 2 years, many years. So there are another option for this case is to use alternatives. First of all, there are some forks. Originally, Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency which we know today, and a lot of coins were based on his source code. They have some changes. These changes are about emission, about speed of the generation blocks, about hashing algorithms, but the approach is the same. And there are some improvements. For example, ZeroCoin plans to use mixing services as a part of protocol. So you don't need to use mixing services separately, and when you send transactions, they are already mixed with other transactions. And what's important is that for Bitcoin user to prevent transactions from being tied to his or her identity, they can be cached again while converting virtual currency to real currency. And it's highly recommended to look at new currencies, because Bitcoin is the most famous and it's like #1, but all the new currencies which appear, they are not just clones, they have some improvements, and these improvements could be about anonymity. And ZeroCoin is designed to offer the same privacy and untraceability properties as one of the laundry services, and but without the need to trust any potentially shady service. And as with Bitcoin, the user would only have to trust the currency system itself. And what's important about this currency, about anonymity and security at all, is that amount of blocks is limited. And at the same time, for governments, there are only two opportunities to react to Bitcoins, to prohibit it or to control it. And governments, as I have told you, have unlimited resources. And as well as amount of blocks is limited and amount of money is limited, we'll have the situation when miners will no longer create any coins and generate any blocks. So one day it will be stopped. And what's important, it will be about 20 years later. And at this point, we'll have the situation which we are trying to reach now. We have a goal to make Bitcoin a common currency which could be used every day, everywhere. And what's important that as well it will be established, there will be some organizations which are interested to support it. And they will have huge resources to control it, because our individual miners are not common situation nowadays, because it's not efficient to mine currencies alone, and even in pools. So there are data centers which mine Bitcoins, and these data centers, the companies can build data centers to support the currency, and then there is a change that currency will be in hands of these organizations. And of course it will be a subject for data mining, and it will be a subject for investigations. So probably, I guess, it could be less anonymous than credit cards. You asked me why, because it's almost opened, and if you see any transaction, you can build a profile of the person. And if you, in case of Bitcoins, and if you use the credit cards, the only merchant and the only bank knows the transactions. So we don't know how it will be in the future, and it's difficult to say, is it better for government to control it or to prohibit it, because you never know what will be in the future. And what's important is that there are different opinions about the Bitcoin and Bitcoin security, and without any doubts, it will change the world. It's already changing the world, and I hope it will be okay, and it will be growth of alternatives, currencies, cryptocurrencies, because it is one of the things which change the world. For example, do you remember which things changed the world for the past 50 years? First of all, it were personal computers. And nobody expected that a few years ago everyone will have a computer. Then it was internet, and nobody expected that everyone will have internet on the mobile phone, on the personal computer. And now we have then appeared social networks, and nobody expected that you'll spend a lot of hours a day to send messages, and someone, owners and government will know everything about you. And now cryptocurrencies appeared, and it will it will change the way how we consider money in our life. So I think that's all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for attention.